Good day, this is Jimmy. Decided it's time to make a video today. Just working through my daily program. I'm not running a series or anything here. I'd like to discuss something with you about the flux core welder, which gets a bad rap. If you watch my videos, I use a flux core welder on structure. And maybe some of you don't know that, but I lay the welds in there with it. It works. I've used it a lot. I mean, you have to be handy with whatever tools that you use. Flux core gets a bad name because they've got one out there that you can go and buy for just a little bit of nothing, and they say, well, it must be cheap. It must not work good, or this, that, and uh, I can admit to you that they have a lot of nice welding equipment out there today. You got the MIG, the TIG, the bronze welder. There's just the aluminum. There's so many different ways to weld out there. But when you're welding this old rusty sheet metal, and you're trying to put a car together, maybe in your hobby shop, maybe there with your grandson, and trying to bring back old grandpa's car, or whatever, and just create something that you had when you were a teenager. You say, well, I want that car back, and you want to build it yourself. And you go and you look at all these welders, and they're like up in the thousands and different things. And you look at that old flux core over there for 100, 200 bucks. And a lot of people are down that because maybe they even want you to buy that. Oh, well, you can't do this unless you got this. And a lot of people say, well, I'm a professional because I've got a $300 hammer, or I'm a professional because I've got this big MIG machine, or this or that. Let me tell you something about old school. That stuff wasn't even invented back in the day. People had to get it done, and they got it done. And these old cars that are running around today, some of those were built by those old guys back then, and some of them are built by them today. And just maybe, that car down there at Barrett Jackson didn't have that $6,000 TIG used on it. Maybe it even had one of those little flux cores. You say, well, that's impossible. I know many of old school guys that can take a piece of a tractor and a claw hammer and straighten things that these guys that have spent their life savings on tools couldn't even touch. It's in the hands, it's in the skill, and today we can't throw away skill. You can't watch a video, buy the tools, and think that that's going to make you the ace coon boon on the top. You might can present yourself that way, but either way it goes, you're going to have to get in there and get a hold of something. You're going to have to get in there and beat on it and bang on it, and you're going to have to mess up a few times. And there is nothing wrong with that. I'm still learning. If you wake up one morning and you're not learning anything, you probably didn't wake up. Now, whether you receive it or not, today I want to tell you just a little bit about the old flux core welding. I've used all of them, and yes, I like the the bronze welder because the temperatures are low. And so my idea in my little old hobby shop, my little old home shop, my little old building these old cars around the house would be to get the temperature that you could get with that bronze welder. Well, I figured out a way to get pretty close to it without spending all the money. Maybe we would even say it's the old hammer and the tractor part, because you can go up here to Harbor Freight. I'm not promoting anything today, by the way, and buy you an old flux core and get your job done. But let's put some tricks in on it. They say the MIG is better because the heat is lower. Well, you can get a smaller wire and lower your heat. Well, the MIG is low, but the flux core, actually, you can back it off and lower your heat, which is something you can't do with the MIG welder, because the MIG is based on the pressure of the gas around it pushing away the impurities. And if you back it off, you lose gas, the weld goes bad. Well, the MIG, if you back it off, it actually just turns the temperature down. on the welder by minute degrees, whatever it takes. Now, as you weld, you weld with your eyes. You're looking for the dime. You're looking for the pool. You're looking for the metal to fall together. If you back that old flux core off, you can actually see what you're doing. If it's not hot enough, you can turn it up, and you could roll that metal together as you go down through there. So that's going to be awful hot. Well, to start with, when you backed up, it got cooler. Now, if you're worried about the heat, I mean, I don't think you could probably see what I'm doing, but I'm gonna give you a demonstration. You would take that, you're welding along, and maybe you're tack welding like you would do with a MIG to keep the heat down. Maybe throw a little air on it after you're through to cool it down, keep it down. Something you can do with a flux core that you can't do with the MIG. You have to make that tack, then you come in and you cool it. Well, that's great. That's a process. That's how you do it. You run back and forth. Eventually, you get a continuous weld. But the thing about making all those tacks, you're going to have little gaps in it or whatever, and you may have to wipe that thing with rosin after you grind it just to make sure you have a sealed weld. Now, the old arc welder back in the day, you could take the old acetylene welder. You could take that acetylene welder, and there was one thing about that. You could make a continuous weld, and you could build a gas tank. It was sealed because you rolled it all together. So you kind of, it would be nice if you could get the continuous weld without the heat of the acetylene welder, or without the brakes of the MIG welder. I'm gonna tell you, you can do it today with the flux core welder. All right, we'll take the flux core welder, and I'll back it off a little bit, and I'll make my welds. I can even make that continuous weld. Now, if it gets too hot, back up just a little bit. Stop, let it cool off. All right, but if you want to get it 1,000 degrees cooler as you're welding it, you take that little air and you run behind it while you're welding, and you lay that weld down. It's going to sound something like this. We're going to try to get a close-up maybe in our next video of me taking care of this. But you lay that weld down and you say, well, that doesn't weld as pretty. Well, until you get used to welding with it, you're not going to lay a pretty weld. You can pick up anything and say, oh, that don't work good. Well, it's going to take a little practice. Grab you a little piece of tin, whatever. But the main thing in sheet metal work, we're not building trailers here. We're building cars. The main thing in sheet metal work is to keep it cool. Because if you get too much temperature, what happens to the metal? The metal is just molecules that probably look like little kookaburras or something that are all laid together, kind of like this. When you heat it, they separate. And you shrink it fast. And when you shrink it fast, where it was before, it's not where it goes back. When it goes back, it just goes back tighter because it goes back with speed. So you heat it, you throw a cold rag on it, that's going to shrink that metal. This is what we're doing with the metal. We're heating it when we're throwing that air on behind it. So when it does go out, it goes back. And if there was any excessive stretching, it's going to go back a little tighter anyway. So it's going to tighten up everything. It's going to lay it down. So the moral of the story is the flux core welder ain't all bad. You can take it just like that old tractor part and that claw hammer. You can make this thing work. And if you really want to, you can make it work better and faster than a MIG. Just wanted to throw this little bit out there today. This is Jimmy with the old school secrets and some of the new ideas that I'm throwing out there. Now, please like, subscribe, or comment to this channel. And I thank you for watching. God bless you.